Hey everybody, Bobby here for the GM table, and we're doing another Savage Worlds conversion. So today we're doing Ghostbusters. Last month we did Star Wars. This might become a reoccurring thing because last month's episode was really popular. And now we got to figure out where to start. But before we do that, I do want to point out a couple rules I both set for myself and for the series in total. This series is going to convert Savage Worlds to different movies, TV shows, basically intellectual properties, but we will only ever be using the core rulebook. That's where it's going to get tricky. I can reference other books, companions, settings that will have things that you can do that might make your life easier, but in the end, we need everything to be able to be done either from the core rules or from something custom we do here when we have to add things. When I add things, I'm not just going to say, this book has this rule, here, this is what it is. That's not what we're doing here. The other thing, I had a lot of requests and comments and stuff on Star Wars video, and we have an official comment with this. It's going to be pinned down in the comments as well. But I want to say it flat out. No, this will not be in print. Ghostbusters is a little different from Star Wars in the fact that there isn't currently an RPG legally for print right now. There's the old West End Games RPG, but they've lost that license. West End Games doesn't even exist. Kind of legally gray area since it's not in production anymore. But we're not putting this stuff in print. Both out of just covering my butt in legal. While we're a small channel, I would love to never get a cease and desist. This is all for educational and transformative purposes, being in video and helping you learn the system. But on top of all of that, out of respect for the people who actually pay the licensing, contact the right people, and get the ability to officially license these things in print, I'm not going to go and do that on my own without those licenses. I'll do a video about it because they're not doing videos, and this is also an educational video. But I'm not going to put those out in print. You want them in print? Watch the video, write them down. I try to keep these as simple as possible. So just go with it. That's kind of the rules we have to keep this series going, both with my conscience and the safety of the channel, future-proofing intact. All right, so I probably put a skip to this time marker if you weren't interested in that whole spiel, but we're going to get into Ghostbusters. Now, the first thing I need to mention is the most iconic item in Ghostbusters, the proton pack, and the fact that this already exists in Savage Worlds, but it breaks our rules. In the Horror Companion, we got a few issues with that atomic ghost hunting pack. First, Horror Companion is very, very old. It is pre-deluxe. Since Suede, the newest version of the rules have come out, there are a lot of new rules and new tools where we can make this item better and mechanically simpler so much easier. The other thing, as I said, this is coming from a book that isn't core, and we will only use core. And then finally, see, kind of on the bottom tier, it's back to the fact that the Horror Companion's old. We know the Horror Companion's getting a rewrite, and we have no idea what the new one's going to look like, or if this will be included. And I don't want to say, go to the Horror Companion and you pick up the wrong Horror Companion and it's not there and then nobody's helped. We're going to make one on our own. And it's actually really, really simple.
Beat them up. Ray. Be gone.
First, we got to look at the things we know the proton packs do in Ghostbusters. They are basically a laser rifle with a big old backpack power source.
Each of us is wearing an unlicensed nuclear accelerator on his back.
Yep. Let's get ready. Switch me on.
They destroy anything they hit. If it's a wall, that wall is effed up. The only things they don't outright destroy are ghosts because it's like the only thing that can hit a ghost. And then number 3, the most important, they lasso and kind of hold ghosts where they are, and it's needed for them to be caught.
Hold him up there. He's gonna move. Hold him up. Go.
That's the criteria we have for a proton pack. Actually, really easy. Like I said, it's basically a laser rifle. We go to the core rules. We have a laser rifle. We have its range and its damage. 3d6, it has a range of 30, 60, 120. That's our baseline. But shooting a ghost with a laser rifle, while it could be a fun game, isn't a Ghostbusters game. We need something a little extra. And we're going to add something to the laser rifle that, again, already exists in core. It's going to function like a really long-range stun gun to ghosts. We look at the stun gun. If you hit with a stun gun, the target has to make a vigor roll. If the hit was a raise, it's a vigor roll at -2. If they fail, they're stunned. When I said Suede now has a bunch of rules that makes this so much easier, they're stunned. Done. That's all we need. Stunned means they can't move, they can't take actions. Everybody gets a bonus to do anything against them. They have a penalty to anything they do. They have to make a vigor check to come out of stunned. If they succeed, they're still shaken. Only if they get a raise do they even act on that round, which guarantees a few rounds. We're done. The proton pack is done. It is a laser rifle with the stun from a stun gun, and it's a backpack. Now, the proton pack may be the most iconic item in Ghostbusters, but there's a lot of other iconic things and a lot of things we need. The big one is the ghost trap.
Right, I'm opening that trap now. Don't look directly into the trap. I looked at the trap, Ray.
Now, this item is going to kind of bridge setting rule and gear. It's technically a piece of gear. We're just going to have a simple setup for it. It uses athletics to attack, because you always throw the ghost trap.
Flowers are still standing.
Its range will be 3, 6, 9. Not good for long range. And only thing the ghost trap does is it does the effect of a finishing move on any ghost that is stunned. Done. Just done. Actually, we may rewrite that to any ghost that has the drop. Doing this on the fly, that's not even in my notes. Because we got Ghostbusters 2, and we got the jogging ghost, and we got Bill Murray just hitting the trap, and whoop, the ghost just goes right into the trap unaware. He wasn't stunned, but he did get the drop. So we'll just say it finishing moves any ghost that has the drop on it. Simple. Now we can have the PKE meters and the visors and all of that. Have it give either +1 or +2 to survival and notice to track and find ghosts. Done. Simple. There's very similar stuff to this in ETU, but we're not using core. So we're just going to do that. It's basically the same rules, but this isn't the I took a mechanic. It's gear gives a +1. If it's really, really good gear, it gives a +2 to the thing you want to do. All of this could have been done with weird science, but we're making it mundane gear because if it's weird science, either one of the players or an NPC that's always around has to have the weird science arcane background. And when you deal with the fact that every player has to have a proton pack in each gadget, and it makes it really difficult to do weird science. It would be a huge tax of edges, all of that. That's not saying weird science isn't part of this. You want to be the Ghostbuster that has gauntlets that let you punch ghosts? That's weird science. You want variations on this? You want a trap that's the front of a motorcycle so you just drive and suck up ghosts? That's weird science. We're going to get into that stuff when we talk about arcane backgrounds. But the basics, the things, everything has to exist no matter what the player background or player choices are. Those need to be gear because we can't assume a player has weird science. And saying all players have weird science basically goes everybody's Egon, which it also isn't Ghostbusters. All right, so with that all out of the way, now get in setting rules, which is where most of your conversion and Savage rules is going to be. You're going to reskin existing things and you're going to pick setting rules. We have 2 categories of setting rules. Setting rules already in the core book, and whatever those don't cover, or where we'll have setting rules we either need or feel like should be written in to really kind of finalize the field. We're going to try and minimize these setting rules, minimize the custom ones. But first, let's look at the ones in the book. I have a quick list of the no's and the yeses. So at least, and this is all personal opinion, but at least for me, the no's are Born a Hero, Conviction, High Adventure, multiple languages, no PowerPoints, and skill specialization. There's a big asterisk on no PowerPoints we're going to come back to. But all the others, it's not that they don't fit in Ghostbusters, it's that they don't have to be there. You could not have any of those and it would still be Ghostbusters. You want to add them? Totally works. My yeses, you could probably argue a couple of these don't have to be there, but I'm going to try and explain the yeses. First of all, my first personal yes is creative combat. I do love this rule. I might complain about the GM screen having creative combat on it. It's because it has it instead of the fear table, and only one published setting uses creative combat, while almost all of them use fear. It was just a weird choice, but the rule itself, I like. And when we get into some of the custom rules, we're playing ghosts. It's not like you're going to be able to shoot them other than your proton pack. You're not going to be able to do a whole lot except taunt them and throw out quippy one-liners or use the environment. Basically, you're likely going to be doing a lot of tests. Also, when we get into ghosts and wounds and whether or not physical things can cause wounds, let's not worry about all of that. And instead of it always being shaken on a raise, we have the creative combat. It also keeps things more dynamic. If everyone's doing tests, all the outcomes get changing and things shifting. You can have a lot going on, and it'll all feel different. Next two are, again, kind of personal preference, but I think when you look at Ghostbusters, they're there all the time. Dumb luck and dynamic backlash. If we're going to have weird science, or we're going to have like weird kind of eldritch ritual magic or any of that stuff that does show up a good bit in Ghostbusters, when it goes wrong, it goes very, very wrong. And for dumb luck, look, I'm going to skip ahead. We're going to have the heroes never die rule in this. When does a Ghostbuster die? When does a Ghostbuster permanently lose an arm? Maybe in the IDW comics. I haven't read all of those. But as far as the Ghostbusters, 99% of everybody knows, the movies and the cartoon, nobody dies. Nobody suffers a permanent injury that's going to last forever. So we're not going to have gritty damage. We're going to have heroes never die. And along with that, I think dumb luck just works. And dumb luck kind of ups the comedy potential. And Ghostbusters is a supernatural comedy. Back to bringing up the gritty damage. This isn't saying you can't do gritty damage. At this point, we're trying to emulate the movies and the cartoon. Want gritty damage? Fine. Do it. You do a really dark, horror-fueled Ghostbusters. It will work. To me, that's not Ghostbusters using Ghostbusters Paint to do a horror game, and that's not a bad thing. That's actually a really cool thing, and I love those things. I know people who have run those. I've played in those. But if we're looking to emulate the stuff, I personally don't think gritty damage, but I do think fast healing. Again, with this bounce back, comedy over tragedy things where we have horror, but it's going to be kind of heroic horror. I think fast healing works well here. Just do a healing roll every day. It doesn't break the game. I actually like fast. The next rule is one I'm not going to lie. I think it just fits with basically all settings, but it's the hard choices rule, which is GM doesn't get any bennies, but every time the players spend a Benny, the GM gets the player's Benny. The GM spends the Benny, it's gone forever. Here's the thing. First of all, yeah, totally open. I just love this for all settings, but I think for Ghostbusters, it works really, really well. Things don't tend to go horribly, supernaturally bad for Ghostbusters until after they've already lucked out quite a few times. It starts lighter. I mean, again, it's a comedy. It's going to be light and kind of campy and fun all around. But the more narrow scrapes they get out of, the more likely towards the end you're going to have Gozer show up and be an eldritch god and you're boned because you spent some bennies fighting Slimer in the hotel. And now here we go. I'm trying to do these in order, but some of them feel like they go. I feel like I should have talked about wound cap when I was talking about gritty damage and all that. I think wound cap fits here. There's very, very few times where a Ghostbuster is hit by something and they are down completely. They hurt. And again, heroes never die doesn't mean incapacitation doesn't happen, but the odds of a Ghostbuster coming into the beginning of a scene or the beginning of a fight and immediately going down, unless it's part of the joke, or that joke is likely they don't have any bennies left, they're not just obliterated. It doesn't happen that way for these guys. Because again, it's a comedy and nobody's dying. Well, the heroes aren't. The world's constantly at risk, and it's assumed NPCs die. But I do think Wound Cap's good here. It was at the bottom of my list, but I should have brought it up. More skill points, I think, is a given. More skill points specifically says use this for modern setting, and it's kind of Victorian era on. Anything where once piloting, boating, and flying are likely to come up or be around, you should have more skill points. And I mean, one of the icons of Ghostbusters is a freaking car. Yeah, it's modern enough for more skill points. And finally, unarmored hero. Because here's the thing. It says unarmored. It doesn't say naked. I know this rule is for the bare-chested, Conan the Barbarian types, and sword and sorcery and all of that. But honestly, we could say the Ghostbusters jumpsuits, at least the bog standard ones, if they don't mod them or anything, aren't armored. It's denim. It isn't even like the toughness of leather armor, okay? So they're unarmored, which means if they're just wearing their jumpsuits, they get the unarmored hero bonus. Boom. All of a sudden, all of these narrow scrapes and things that should have killed them that don't actually make even more sense.
He slimed me.
That's great! Actual physical contact!
Now we have the custom setting rule. I try to keep these minimal. There's actually 4, which is more than I would like. Some of these are simple, some of these are bigger. But first of all, I think a big one, a big setting rule, can't hurt ghosts. With the exception of the Ghostbusters video game where like the lesser ones explode, ghosts never actually get hurt. They get lassoed, and it's harder for them to get out of the lasso the more they've been on, but they don't actually get wounded. They never die, because even when a ghost is trapped, the ghost can escape later, and I get that's part of Heroes Never Die. But if we do it where they never take damage, all of a sudden those tests have more. So why does the laser have 3d6 damage? Well, we're going to get into that with collateral damage. But for now, we just have to worry they never take wounds. We're looking to stun them and trap them. And this is ghosts. This is when they're incorporeal. I want to add that. If a ghost has possessed a person, you hit that person in the face, it's going to take a wound. It has a physical body. But we keep that strong distinction. This is more powerful than like even you ghosts or any of the Savage Worlds ghosts. But I think it fits. Rule number 2 can kind of team up with number 1. I just called it Stream Team. Because if they can't take wounds, and Double Shaken won't take a wound and stuff, why do we gang up? And why do we have images like all of the Ghostbusters focusing their beams on a single big ghost to take them out? What benefit does it do? Well, basically, we're doing a gang up mechanic for the proton packs.
Oh! Okay, hold him up there. He's gonna move. Hold him up. Go!
Each additional proton stream on a ghost provides -1 for them to resist being stunned, to come out of being stunned, and to come out of being shaken. This means the more streams you have on a ghost, the harder it is for them to get out of being stunned, which means you can buy a lot more time for getting that trap out there and catching them. All right, this is number 3. Those two could have been combined. This could be number 2. Blah, blah. I'm bad at numbering, okay? A big part of the original Ghostbusters RPG was the fact that the more damage you deal to the environment and screw-ups and proton blasting holes in the walls, that's going to cut out of your pay. Now, back then, it was like spreadsheets. And we had to calculate what all the collateral damage was, look at insurance, all of that stuff, and do that. And that can be its own minigame, but this is Savage Worlds. We're not doing spreadsheets in Savage Worlds. Instead, I came up with a collateral damage system that I really, really want to try out. So here it is. First of all, it's going to be based on whatever the standard pay is. I have this written for the ending, but I'll note it here. I don't have a standard pay. You figure that out. Because if you're playing a 1980s game versus if you're playing a 2020 game, that standard pay will be very, very different. I'm not writing a whole book here. Figure out, agree with your group what standard pay is, what your rates are. Okay? Each location you take a job from will have a wealth die, the wealth system from the core book. The GM will determine like how wealthy the location is. I'll have a die. The location will also have a toughness. Lower toughness means there's more easily breakable, valuable things around. Higher toughness could be like you're in a freaking bunker. What are you going to damage? And what you do damage is concrete. But anytime you miss with the proton pack, or anytime the ghost causes damage to the environment, pull that damage. Not to an object, to a location, so that damage can ace. Compare it versus its toughness. If it caused a wound, that is collateral damage you now will have to deal with when we get to the wealth die section. I will say, I think anyone on the team should be allowed to spend a penny to soak collateral damage. And this would be stuff like people leaping and catching vases before they break, or moving things out of the way just in time, and actively trying to keep things from getting destroyed while they're doing their job. But the GM rolls the wealth die. I would probably say it has a wild die, because wealth die assumes for the wild cards, and you guys are wild cards and it affects you. You can give it a wild die if you want. You don't have to. That's kind of optional. The GM rolls a wealth die with a wound penalty. It's the wounds of the location. I'm okay with it going above 3, but I think they keep consistency within the rules. The normal max wound penalty is 3, so max penalty of 3. If you get a raise, you get paid in full. If you get a success, you are deducted 1d6 times 10%. So anywhere from 10 to 60% of your standard pay is getting reduced because of collateral damage. If you fail, it's kind of a break even. Like, we're not paying you for this. You destroyed all this stuff. Critically fail. Things got so destroyed, they're basically going, we pay you. We're going to sue you. They're going to, through either giving you a bill or just literally suing your company, you're going to get charged for the job. Now, I do think haggling and negotiation should be allowed with this. Always at the end of jobs, you got the Ghostbusters arguing about the bill.
Now, let's talk seriously. Now, for the entrapment, we're going to have to ask you for 4 big ones, $4,000 for that. But we are having a special this week on proton charging and storage of the beast, and that's only going to come to $1,000, fortunately.
So with that, I just said one player gets to make a persuasion roll. This can be supported, but they get to make a persuasion roll. On top of any penalties or bonuses they have, they take a penalty equal to the wound penalty of the location.
$5,000? I had no idea it'd be so much. I won't pay it.
Well, that's all right. We can just put it right back in there. Thank you.
We certainly can, Dr. Venkman.
No! All right. Anything.
Thanks so much.
Done. So if it's been max, if it's 3 wounds, they're taking a -3. If they get a success, they raise their payment tier by 1. If they get a raise, they raise it by 2. Currently, I just have it as the cap of whatever your max pay was. But it can mean you go from being sued to, if you get a success, fine, we won't sue you. Call it even. If you somehow get a raise, they're just like, I don't like this, but I got a damn contract. I'm probably never hiring you again, but here's your pay. I'm not paying you in full. And you can go from, if you just failed, to I'm not paying you, to fine, here's your damn bill. There might be repercussions later, but in the moment, this gets done. This can easily cover all of those collateral damage rules and all of that math that the old Ghostbusters game had to a Fast Furious fun version. Finally, we have setting rule number 4, and this is just character limitations and stuff. This is going to come up kind of all the time. I think we're good with any edges and hindrances in the core book you can allow, but we do need to note some about our backgrounds. As I said earlier, I think weird science is a perfect fit here. So if somebody wants to take weird science, cool. As far as gifted and psychic, both of them could fit in the Ghostbusters world, but it depends on the level of goofiness and campiness and over-the-topness you want. If a GM wants it closer to the movies, then no. Don't have psychics and people with weird powers on the team. If you want something crazy, go for it. I think it would be a blast. Finally, get to magic. Here's the thing. In Ghostbusters, there's magic. We just have to acknowledge that. Now, it's Lovecraftian magic, where you could say it's sci-fi, you could say it's magic, but there are rituals and things to do that can summon or contact other planar entities. It just is. I would say we're going to have to do a couple custom things here. You want a quick and dirty version of it? Honestly, get ETU, use their ritual rules. Boom, you're done. But that breaks our rules. I'm not going to go through a whole thing of suggested powers. I would say no powers that deal damage. Done. Like, it's a real simple one line. It covers your bases. You're set. Any of the other powers, what we're going to do is they're going to be dramatic tasks. You have to research what you're going to do, and then you have to cast it. Researching is going to be an investigation check. The penalty will be based off of the tier or the rank of the power. Little table down there. But basically what it is novice, no penalty. Seasoned, -1. Veteran, -2. Heroic, -4. And if somehow you're going for a legendary power, -6. To find the thing, not to cast it. Casting, dramatic task. Now, the thing with Suede is we can modify dramatic tasks now of how many rounds and how many successes. And you can do all that, but they do have 3 tiers pre-done for you. Challenging, which is 4 successes in 3 rounds. Difficult, which is 6 successes in 4 rounds. And complex, which is 8 successes in 5 rounds. With the cards and all of that, this, again, not a tutorial for dramatic tasks. That video is actually coming really soon. But what we can do with that is the duration of the power determines the complexity of the dramatic task. If the power only lasts in rounds, you do challenging, the 3-round one. If you want the power to last in minutes, you do difficult, the 4-round one. And if you want the power to last in hours, this is ritual magic, so odds are you're going longer durations, then you do complex. Now, how long is each card in Game World? I didn't write all that out. You could say it's actual rounds. Actually, you could honestly, I would say each card for the challenging one is rounds. Each card for the difficult one is minutes. And each card for the complex is hours. I just came up with that right now, but just have it correlate 1-to-1. Real simple. Anytime you fail a card, even if it's not a club, during this ritual, dynamic backlash happens. That makes it really dangerous. What happens if you fail the dramatic task? Which means either you don't get enough successes in that many cards, crit fail on a card, or you fail on a club. You could say the dynamic backlash and stuff, but I feel like in Ghostbusters, when it goes wrong, it goes really, really wrong. So what it is if you fail the task outright through any of the means that cause that to happen, the GM draws a card. If the card is red, the caster suffers a number of d6 damage equal to the casting modifier, which I completely forgot to tell you. We do a casting modifier based on half the PowerPoint cost of the power. But whatever that modifier is, you take that many d6 damage to the caster. That means it could kill them. That's the good result. A black card means they summon something awful. GM just gets to determine. I just literally wrote summon something awful. It's a demon. It's just another ghost. It's something like that. And if it's a joker, they woke up a god and it's pissed. That makes rituals crazy dangerous, which is good. You don't see people doing magic in Ghostbusters, but you see that it's there and it exists, and it should be a possibility because we've seen it done. And not just, oh, it's by the villains, so it can only be done by the villains. Ghostbusters are all about science and learning and education, and a lot of the magic, and Craftian base, is about discovery and research. There's no reason they shouldn't be able to do the two, as long as you're willing for the cost. There's probably madness stuff and things there, but I'm trying to keep it simple and light. But that's it. That's all of it. This is probably going to be close to a half-hour video, though. While I went in going, this is going to be the easiest conversion, and doing the Proton Pack was crazy easy. As I went in and went, I want to look at all the setting rules and what fits and what doesn't, and give it its full attention it deserves, it became a really big damn video. Anyways, I will catch you guys next time. Bye.
Guys, if you enjoy our content, check out our live games on Twitch, or you can get early access to videos and exclusive GM material on our Patreon. Links to both and more are in the video description below.